Hi everyone, I'm Gina K from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV. Today on Stamp TV I'm going to show you a fun background technique using wax paper and embossing folders. Let me show you the tools and products you need to do this technique. First you're going to need some wax paper, and the kind that I'm using is the Cuttlebug brand by Reynolds, and you can use any kind of wax paper, so if you don't have this brand just grab whatever you can find. I'm also using an iron, and I picked up this little portable Sunbeam travel iron. I thought this would be good for my craft room. You're also going to need some ink, and the inks that I'm using today are the Gina K Designs Fresh Asparagus, Turquoise Sea, and some Kraft. And I also have 3 sponge daubers here, and you can use any kind of sponge or a sponging tool. Whatever you have is fine. Now for the embossing folders, the ones that I'm using are this floral one from Daubers. Let me see if I put it up against white, if you can see that better. Not really. Okay, this is just a big jumbo bold bloom. I've never used this one before, so I thought it'd be fun to use. And then I have an old Cuttlebug folder here, and this is just a foliage type of folder. And I also have a swirl folder by Cuttlebug. You can also use the lifestyle crafts. You can use any Cuttlebug or any embossing folders that you have in your collection. The purpose of this technique is not to run out and buy anything new, but it's to use the stuff that you already have in your craft room. So I have my paper cutter here, and I have some plain white cardstock. And I'm going to trim this down to 5 by 3 3/4. And I'm going to do a couple of those. I could have done this ahead of time, but I've been running around all week doing a bunch of other crazy things that I'm going to share with you next week. I'm doing a couple at a time here. So I'm going to do 6 pieces. That was 2 right there. And I'll do 2 more. Because I'm going to do this 3 different ways, or using 3 different folders, so that you can see some different looks. Okay. So now I have 6 pieces of cardstock cut down to 5 inches by 3 3/4. And of course, you can cut them down to whatever size you want to use for your project. Then I'm going to grab some of this wax paper. I don't need quite that much. And I'm going to trim this down, and I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger than those pieces of paper that I just trimmed. So I'm going to cut this one 5 1/2 or 5 1/4 by about 4 1/4. This one, same thing. And I just keep these extra little pieces for projects that I want to use in the future. Projects I want to make. I'll get one more little sheet here. And we'll do one more. Okay. So there I have all of my waxed paper pieces, and I only need 3 for the 6 pieces of cardstock that I'm going to do. And then I'm going to crinkle this. So I just want to roll it into a little ball. Be gentle not to tear it. Now when you're choosing what types of embossing folders to use, try to choose an embossing folder that has more of a design in it and not just a texture. There are some very pretty embossing folders that have textures, like woven textures and things like that, but you're going to get a lot of texture out of the wax paper already, so you want to make sure that you have a design going into your folder. Alright, and then you're going to straighten these back out again. There's one. There's another one. And if you see some areas that don't look crinkled enough, you can always just get in there and crinkle them a little bit more. Because the more crinkled, the better it looks, that's for sure. And then here's the last one. Okay. So there are my 3 pieces of crinkled up waxed paper. Now I'm going to run them through my Cuttlebug, and you can use any die cutting machine that embosses for this. I'm going to start with my A and a B plate, and then I'm going to put the piece of waxed paper into the folder. And emboss it just like you would a regular piece of cardstock. Put the B plate on top. Let's get that more even there and run it through. And if you feel like you need a little bit more pressure, and you might, just grab an extra piece of cardstock or 2, but check it first to make sure that it's not too thick. You don't want to break your machine. But that'll give a little bit more pressure to the waxed paper, because it is very thin. All right, so there's my first piece. You can see what that looks like. See the design in there. All right, put that one aside. We'll do this one next. I wanted to try a couple of them for you to show you what the different designs look like. And again, I think it's good to shim these. So I'm just using 2 pieces of our 80-pound layering weight white. And that gives it a nice bit of extra pressure. So there's that one. Put that aside. And the last one is this one by Daubers. And these 2 pieces of cardstock again. Okay. You're going to have a lot of fun doing this. You're going to go run and look at all of your embossing folders and try them all. Okay, so there is the floral design. All right, so now my next step is to grab a piece of scrap paper, and I would recommend using a copy paper, something like that, and just fold it in half, and then grab that piece of waxed paper with 2 of the pieces that you pre-cut, and then sandwich that in between. And by sandwiching it in between, you're going to actually get the design on both pieces of paper. They'll be a little bit different, just like when you run your Cuttlebug through, one side looks different than the other when you run it through your Cuttlebug. Okay, and then I'm going to just lay that down, and then I'm going to grab that iron, and I'm going to iron it. And I have my iron set to high. You want to make sure you get all along the edges. Now, when you take these off, make sure that you place them with the wax paper side up right from the start, because it doesn't matter how good your eyes are, you will not be able to see which side has the wax paper on it. So you want to make sure that they're up so that when you're ready to use them, you can. All right, we're going to iron another one. This is the big bloom. And again, I'm going to slip that in there. I like this little portable iron. It's kind of nice. I find that all of my housework supplies and things like shaving cream, wax paper, tin foil, everything is in my craft room. It's not doing any good cleaning. I don't clean with any of it or use it to cook. I use it all in my craft room. Okay. And so we'll put that one right there, and then we have one more to do, and that's this bit of foliage. All right, line that up. I'm going to use a new piece of folded paper here, just so it's a little flatter. All right, last one. And you can make a bunch of these ahead of time, and then they'll be all ready for projects. Doesn't take much ironing either. It transfers very quickly. Okay, so that is the last one. All right, now I'm just going to use the same piece of paper. I'm going to grab that last one. That was the foliage one. And some fresh asparagus ink. And one of my sponge daubers. Just check that there. Okay. So now I'm going to zoom in a bit so that you can see this a little bit better as this happens. And I'm going to ink up my sponge dauber, and then I'm going to start in a circular motion, getting this green ink all over the surface of this piece of cardstock. And not only are you going to see the leaves, but you're going to see all this crinkly stuff in and around the leaves. Isn't that pretty? So you've got that really pretty leaf pattern. And you can do this all one color. You can do it multiple colors. It gives kind of a batik look. So there is the one with all the leaves. Isn't that pretty? And if you want, you can take a piece of paper towel and kind of rub it over the surface. That will clean up the surface a bit because it's not going to stick to the waxed paper. It's definitely a wax paper resist technique. So that kind of brightens it up a bit. All right, so that's one background. Let's try, let's see what this one is. I think this is the bloom. So we'll do this one in turquoise. Same thing. Oh, look at how pretty this one's coming out. Definitely looks like island clothing, something that you'd wear if you're heading down to the buffet on the cruise ship. You'd be wearing fabric that looks like this. All right. And there's the bloom. That one's really pretty too. These are so fun. They're like magic. Let me grab another piece of paper towel here. There we go. And then we'll do this last one. I think this is it. It's easy to mix them up. If you don't want to be surprised, do them all the same, color them, and then do the next one. All right. This should be the swirl. The Flourish. Oh, yes. There it is. Look how pretty that is in the Kraft ink. That would make a beautiful background for a masculine card. It's just so fun to see what they look like. You could even age this a little more by adding a little bit of dark chocolate on top of it, just in spots, or some of the charcoal brown ink. So there is the swirl background of Flourish. And I don't even know if some of these embossing folders still exist, if they're still available. But it doesn't matter because there are so many beautiful embossing folders out there on the market that you can use, and I'm sure you have several of them right in your craft room right now to try. So those are 3 really cool backgrounds using this technique. Now let me show you a card that I made. I had used the Flourish one, and I did it with some of the turquoise ink, and I made this card out of it. And you can see it lightens up a little bit once it dries, so it's a little bit more subtle, and that depends too on the color of the ink that you use. That might be a little close. There we go. Okay, so what I used for this card, I'm not going to make this whole card for you, but what I used for this card is the stamp sets are the Frame and Flowers 1 stamp set by Gina K Designs and the Scripty Sayings. So I just used the flowers and these leaves. Here's the other one up here. Those leaves to make the flowers and leaves. And for the Scripty Sayings, I used the Happy Birthday to You greeting. And then to cut out the flowers and these leaves, I used the Flowers 2 die set. I'm sorry, the Flowers 1 die set. And that's what they look like out of the package. And that's the package of them. I got some ink on my label there. Okay, and then I used a black Flourish die, which is this one. This is the mini Fanciful Flourish. And I used one of the Lacy Corners dies to create these 2 corners. And this die, this is a new company that I found that does custom dies, and I had them do this one. Look at this die, isn't that pretty? It's gold. I like that. And they did this butterfly, and I'm thinking about getting some dies done with them. They cut beautifully, so I wanted to try it out, and I figured I would throw it on this card to show you, but that's something that is going to be coming to Gina K Designs soon. So that is my finished card project made out of one of these backgrounds. And there are, let's get that out of the way, there are the 3 backgrounds made from this technique. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video. Stay tuned for more techniques and projects here on StampTV.com, and thanks so much for watching.